Lai Ping then asks, but even so, if they know where you are, how do they find you? The father explains that actually the mother was a sacrifice, and since she returned to the elven tribe, they are no longer being hunted. But now it's the Black Guild of the Demon Kingdom that's after them. Lai Ping looks to the side thinking, demons, the Black Guild, could it be you? She is angry and points her finger at him, who apologizes. She sits down and tells him to explain where this Black Guild of Demons is wanting to capture elves from. The father explains that apparently this Black Guild is conducting experiments on living bodies to try to bring the Demon Queen back from the dead, and elves are necessary materials. They are trying so hard that even the daughter, who is not of pure lineage, is being hunted. Lai Ping looks thinking, I guess that has something to do with you, doesn't it? The queen grabs him and starts shaking him, telling him not to even think about it. Then she says it doesn't make sense for her to have been here for a whole year and for him to have always seen her, so she couldn't have left. The father and daughter are confused. The queen says, wow, just with my absence for a year, the land is destroyed like this, who has been spreading the rumor that the queen is dead. But they tell her, Queen Elizabeth hasn't been seen for over 500 years. If she were alive, she would have appeared to take over the whole world again. She must be dead, right? Lai Ping is biting his fingers, thinking, 500 years? She's been living here with me for a year. The queen sits on the couch and asks, what are the rumors of her death? The elf explains that according to the great literary legend, the queen was destroyed by the legendary hero. The father continues, the battle lasted for over a month until finally the great hero sacrificed himself to protect the continent and died along with the demon queen. At this point, the queen gives a glare at the two and takes them to a death world. The daughter asks, Father, what place is this? The father says that it is her pure intention to kill the two. The queen then says, all this rumor is false, and he just agrees. Lai Ping said it must also be a false rumor because he is the legendary hero. At least that's what the system said. Father and daughter then are left without understanding anything. Lai Ping explains, and this one here, which you're all talking about, is Queen Elizabeth. The two start exploding with excess information. Their brains can't reason with all this. From the queen's point of view, the interpretation is different. Look at this fool here. I've dominated her for so long, she doesn't even know what to do, laughs in her face. With that, she gets the table angrily, saying she's not going to stay here entertaining them. Thinking, damn Li Ping, you stinker, it seems like you only saved them to humiliate me in front of them. This time you went too far. She slams the door and leaves. The father then asks Lai Ping, what are your plans for the future? What are you going to do with us? Our hero says he needs to calm down because even he doesn't know what to do after Elizabeth broke the barrier. The synchronization of time inside and outside became completely messed up. Night falls and the daughter is talking to her father. Wow, I didn't expect your story to be like this. Apparently, the great demon queen fell in love with the legendary hero and gave up the whole world just to hide with him, just like you did with Mom. The father replies, stop talking nonsense, we can't even compare to them. And another thing, at this moment, Lai Ping must be considering whether he kills us or not. The daughter said, but if he were going to kill us, he wouldn't have saved us. Why did he save us to kill us? But the father says, did you not drink that tea? Did you not realize how distant they are? Just by seeing his power, you should know that for them we are no more than ants. Whether we stay alive or not, none of that matters to them. It all depends on how they're feeling at the time. At this point, the protagonist enters the room and says, so it seems like you two haven't slept yet. What are you talking about? The elf gets scared. If you haven't slept yet, how about we play some cards? The father plays some cards. The three are then sitting around a candle. Lai Ping asks, did you understand everything? The father basically said that while the elf girl is thinking. It's like my father said, this here is Lai Ping's test to decide if he's going to kill us or not. Our hero then says, so now I'll start dealing the cards. The father swallows hard and says, Mr. Lai Ping, could I ask you what the name of this game is? The elf girl is terrified because there's an aura emanating from the deck. Our protagonist thinks I can't say we're going to play landlord. The people in this world won't even understand those words. I know. Then he says, the name of this game here is Dragon Battle. Surprised, they say, Dragon Battle. Elizabeth, who is nearby disguised, also gets confused. Dragon Battle? What does he want to do with them? Lai Ping explains, you two brave heroes have to join forces to defeat the dragon. We'll decide who the dragon is and who the heroes are based on the cards we draw. The father and daughter stare at each other, both thinking this is definitely a test. Nasserim then says, I'll start dealing the cards now. Remember, choose very carefully. Lai Ping pulls his hand, I'll take a look at my cards first. The father looks at his son and says, we can't hesitate now. Draw your cards. All right, there's already a weird mana coming out of the deck. She then draws a card and the two are taken to another dimension. The poor girl is staggering, leaning on the ground thinking, this isn't good. Just by drawing a card, my mana was completely drained. I'm powerless. She looks at her father and says, I'm sorry. And he replies, it's okay, my daughter, leave the rest to me. Lai Ping asks, you want to be a dragon? He stares at his hand thinking, even though I don't have many big cards, it's still a pretty good hand. Not to mention there's a king. This isn't bad at all. It can win. The father and daughter say they have no intention of being the dragon. Lai Ping, on the other hand, is having fun. If I can get another 4 and an ace, I'll have a winning hand. He asked again, are you sure you don't want to? They reply that they don't. Lai Ping says, since that's the case, I won't be polite. And he puts his hand on the deck and draws 2. Then he throws an 8, a 10, and a queen. He is dissatisfied with the cards he drew and looks disappointed. The father thinks, what happened? We didn't do anything. Is Mr. Lipping dissatisfied with our performance? Nosa then says, I'll start with an 8. It's your turn, Uncle Beerus. Uncle is already sweating cold. If we can pass this test, he'll spare us. I can't give up, but I'm feeling. Every time I play a card, it costs me a few years of my life. My life force is being drained. Trembling, he says, I play a jack. The daughter says, Father, but he interrupts, saying it's okay. Leave it to me. She then says she'll pass. Lai Ping thinks about their strategy. Besides the royal flush, they can make a sequence from 7 to the queen. Only the 10 and the jack are left. Should I break with the pair? If I do, they'll play a 2. Thinking of various strategies but unable to come to a good conclusion, he says he'll pass too. The father asks, are you really not going to play? Lai Ping says no. The father is confused, thinking, this Lai Ping, he's making me play these cards to consume all my life. Since that's the case, I need to get rid of all this as quickly as possible. He then plays 2 queens, 3 6, 3 7s according to the rules. This combination of cards is called Flying Dragon. I don't know what's going on, but it seems like all the life energy from his leg was drained. The price for this was a leg. The bigger the cards, the higher the price to be paid. A flying dragon appears between them and both are confused. What is this? The creature then uses a power and hits Lai Ping on the head. Elizabeth watching everything. The father is afraid, thinking he made a wrong card combination. I just offended the legendary hero. But our hero is very calm and says, well played. The father says, it's your turn now, Mr. Lai Ping. However, our hero responds, I'll just pass. You can go again. The father says, all right, and plays a 3, his fingers and leg already starting to feel lifeless. The elf daughter says she'll pass too. Our protagonist then says, my turn, and plays a 10. Both look at each other knowing they can't beat that hand. Lai Ping reveals 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, jack, and queen, a sequence. Now it's trouble for the 2 of them. Giant destructive waves begin to appear, and they are both drowning. The father tries to save his daughter, but it's hard to resist the waves. Until they both wake up breathless. I can't play. But our protagonist is calm. Now there are 3 kinds with a pair summoning a group of knights. The father tells his daughter he can't win, but the elf girl says, hold on, I can. The father tells her not to do it, it will cost too much life force and is very risky. But she says, I can't just hide. I also want to protect you and I'll play 3 of a kind with a pair. The knights then go against each other beyond. A battle in the skies ensues and only her knight remains. The father asks if his daughter is okay and she says yes. Lai Ping praises her move, saying, you really have to protect your allies even if you have to sacrifice your own cards. The most important thing is that determination. Our protagonist thinks, I didn't expect them to learn how to play cards so quickly. The father looks at his dwindling hand. Determination? At that moment, Lai Ping says, now it's too late. The father and daughter are scared of Mr. Lai Ping. Elizabeth thinks things are getting bad. This aura is frightening. Our protagonist then plays 2 jokers. The dimension begins to shatter and a killer clown appears above. Elizabeth seems to recognize what he summoned, saying it's a 3-star demon, a clown king. He was about to attack the other 2, making a heart. But then he notices Elizabeth and says, what are you looking at, huh? Turning the heart into a knife. You better be careful, or I'll kill you. Elizabeth tries to defend herself. Who do you think I am to belittle? But she's angry. All this time she's been absorbing everything the protagonist has been doing for her, and theoretically giving all the possible energy. But she just reached the 3-star level. But this creature that Lai Ping summoned is a 3-star demon. She's confused. How can he summon something of the same power level as me so easily? The father looks at his daughter and says, Elif, I'm sorry, but I don't have this power. It's okay, Gad. How can you blame yourself? It's all my fault. I annoyed Mr. Lai Ping. The poor man is spitting blood, saying, my life force. It's being drained. Lai Ping sees him spitting blood and asks, Uncle, are you okay? Thinking, wow, I don't think his injuries have healed yet. He sees the old man's hand that had 3 3s and 4 kings and says, wow, he could have won a long time ago. He was just letting me play with him. Man, I was so naive thinking I was good. It seems like I just disrupted his rest. With that, he says it's all right and takes all the cards. The dimension dissolves along with the demon, and he stands up, saying, sorry for causing trouble. The father and daughter can't understand the legendary hero, but they are relieved to see they are still alive. Elizabeth is angry, thinking, that ridiculous Lai Ping. He pretended to want to play cards with those 2 just to take advantage of this opportunity and hit me with that clown. The next day in the morning, the 2 are leaving and Lai Ping says, Uncle Bass, do you really not want to stay a few more days? The fruits I planted are almost ripe. He bows, we can't disturb you 2 anymore. Mr. Lai Ping has already been very charitable and gracious. We will never forget. Our hero is a little embarrassed and says, it wasn't that serious. The father says, don't worry. After we leave, we won't tell anyone about what happened here. The elf girl with presents in her hand asks Mr. Lai Ping, do you still want to give us something so precious? But he says, "It's just a little tea, no problem." Approaching the old man, he puts something in his hand and says to him, "Oh, and here's something for you too. A memento for you, uncle." The father looks to see what it is, and it's the deck of cards. Lai Ping says, "You can keep that. My card skills are very bad. I'm not cut out for this." Then Elizabeth appears, saying, "Hey." He looks at her, and she just opens her mouth. "Go ahead. Get out of here." They both run away, and Lei Ping is left somewhat confused. She enters, "Well, now that everything is back to normal, it's time to make some food for this queen here." Our protagonist simply agrees. The father and daughter are running as fast as they can. The daughter asks her father to stop, saying, "I can't take it anymore." But he tells her, "We can't stop. First there was that game of the legendary card test, and then a threat from the demon queen." And then he remembers the night before.